Next year? Yeah. High risk, high reward. I have the Chicago Bears, Los Angeles Rams, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Minnesota Vikings. There was a couple teams here who I had in higher tiers, and they would actually probably, I'll get to it when I explain the next tier, but there's two teams in particular here that I would probably have arrow pointing up and down into this tier. Naturally, though, the Bears, I mean, we've said it. We've talked about the Bears and the Vikings in particular a ton in the preseason. We know, I mean, we saw it exactly when these two teams faced off on Monday, why they're high risk, high reward. We saw it. JJ looked terrible that first half. Caleb looked a little better in the first half. The Bears were rolling. The Bears have a ton of defensive talent, much like the Vikings. The Vikings looked like a great defensive team once shit got down to it. But we saw the risk and the reward with both QBs. They're young, and I would put the coaching on top of that with the Bears. We really don't know about Ben Johnson yet, though we did look decent, I guess, on Monday. But between those two with their young QBs and their talented rosters, and the Rams and the Steelers with their old QBs and talented rosters, it's high risk, high reward. The best version of those teams are contenders. The worst version of those teams are not contenders. High risk, high reward.
How many teams have you named? What are we at here?
4, 9, 14, 18.
18. Interesting. I agree with the tier. I mean, they're all definitely, like you said, high risk, high reward. In one way or another, there is at least some sort of risk. And a lot of these teams, I think people would say, are fringe Super Bowl teams where it wouldn't completely surprise you if they made it to a Super Bowl. Like the Rams, I think a lot of people would say that about the Steelers. I just think, I know this isn't a power ranking, but to have the Rams in like this vein feels a little low for them, but I agree with the tier that they're in.
I think it'll make more sense once you hear the other tiers, because this is in essence a contender tier, but it's also like you're kind of hedging bets here with these teams because they could be contenders, they could be awful. If the worst version of them peaks out, you know, they're not playoff teams or they're fringe playoff teams. The best version are contenders, I believe. Go ahead, Keenan.
So I would actually have the Falcons in this tier. I think that they fit into the high risk, high reward because I think like Kyle Pitts is like high reward, like the idea of him and like his talent, but it is high risk. Going Michael Penix, like can he really be? Because people thought it was a stretch taking him where he was taken in the draft. Obviously, Bijan's not really high risk, but he can be super high reward. I just think a lot of their team is high risk, high reward. So I think they could be there. And with Minnesota, I almost feel like I'm fine with them being at this line, like exactly with the team placement. They almost feel like medium to low risk, high reward. I just feel like they have like, I mean, you could say this kind of about a lot like the Rams and the Steelers, but for them, I just think they're young, they're talented, and with their coaching, with Flores and O'Connell, they have such a floor that the risk of them being bad is so low, but the reward of them being high is there. Which you could say the same thing technically about the Steelers because like they don't lose, they don't have losing seasons, and then Sean McVay is such a good coach. So you could almost say this is like a medium low risk, high reward, but I also get the high risk of rookie. You decided to go off of the quarterback that led you to 14 wins to go with the rookie quarterback that you had just drafted. You go get the 41-year-old veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers to go lead the team, to think that that's going to be the move. You have the 37-year-old Matt Stafford with the bad back to go lead this roster. Like you have take your chance on Devontae Adams. You let Cooper Kupp go. So, like, I get it. And then I think the Bears are just a definition of high risk, high reward. I think everything about them is just high risk, high reward. Like, the whole thing could go 5-12, but the whole thing feels like at pinnacle could go 12-5. Like, they feel high risk, high reward.
Yeah, I mean,
also Dallas kind of feels this way too. But go on.
Sure. And the difference between Dallas and, again, the Steelers and the Rams in particular, Stafford and Rodgers in particular, they're one hit away. You hit those guys clean, who knows? You can say that about anyone in football, of course, but particularly those two, that could submarine your season.
They're one regular hit away. Like, a lot of people are like, obviously, one terrible hit, like one bad injury. But, like, for some of them, it's like one just, I got hit, like, hard by somebody. And then, like, it happened there. They're one regular hit away, which makes them high risk.
And I got to disagree on the Vikings being medium risk because, again, you jettison a quarterback that got you to 14 wins. This quarterback better be good. This quarterback better at least get you to 8 or 9, because if it's 7 or below, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? You clearly have a contending roster there. So it's high risk to me, especially in that division where you got 4 competitive teams. And again, the Bears and Vikings to me are one and the same with those QBs. Because, I mean, a lot of that loss on Monday to me for the Bears was on Caleb, and he's going to be the one who really makes or breaks his team. And counter that, the Bears and the Vikings, to the other young team, Keenan, you mentioned, Atlanta, who, again, they could be in this tier. I think we've seen it from all facets of the game with the Bears and the Vikings, right? Special teams is all right. The defense is great on both ends. They've got talent at the skill positions. It's a matter of putting it together. Whereas the Falcons, I'm not sure if their defense is good yet, right? We saw it in week 1, but week 1 is, weeks 1 through 4 or 5 are the preseason essentially nowadays. So, but I mean, that would be the other contender for that tier. I said the same thing was the Falcons, but I need to see more on their defensive side of the ball for them to be in that position for me. But yeah, I don't think they're far from contending necessarily. So I agree with you there as far as Atlanta goes.
Right, then. They're good then. That's fine.
All right.
So that's fine. No, you had everything. I can't really disagree. I get what you're saying. We may have a little bit of a difference on the Vikings of thought, but I think that they should be roughly around these teams. So I can't really even be Kyle, you should have named it medium risk. Golly, this is horrendous. It's just okay. But we have a little bit of different thoughts, but you're right. I mean, going from 14 wins with Sam Darnold to going to JJ McCarthy, that is a little bit of a risk, but I think it's just because their floor of just how good their team is in coaching and infrastructure is just so it kind of makes it a lower risk to me, but go on.
Yeah, for sure. And again, these 4 teams that I just mentioned, they could absolutely be in this tier that I'm about to mention, and probably should be. But to me, these 4 are a little more solid depending on how you look at it. I mean, I think I'll just name them and I'll tell you my opinion on these teams, but could be contenders. I got 4 teams here as well. The Cincinnati Bengals, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Houston Texans. I'll let y'all react before I explain anything.
I agree that they could be contenders. I'm a lot lower on a lot of these teams. I think
we know you're lower on the Texans.
I think I am too, honestly.
You're lower on the state of Texas.
Yeah. Could you name the tier again? I don't remember.
Could be contenders.
The Chargers, the Cowboys, the Bengals, and the Texans.
Gotcha. I think the Chargers, for me, before the season, were creeping into the contenders tier, and I think I probably would have put them in the contenders tier. At the end of the season last year, I picked them to win some playoff games, so I was definitely a little bit higher on the Chargers to end the season. The other 3 are just teams that I am just not high on at all. So, again, I agree that they could be contenders with an additional piece or something like that, but it's going to take a good change for that to happen. Like with Houston, if they don't get an offensive line, they will not be a contender ever, because CJ can't take a hit on every other play and win football games. That just doesn't happen. For me, Cowboys can't be a contender with Dak Prescott as their QB, not a real one. And then the Bengals. I think the Bengals are contenders, but it's mainly about their defense. I have full hopes in their offense, but the defense, I agree, cannot keep them in it, and that does push them into the almost contenders tier for sure.
And I'll quickly go before you explain exactly your thought process on this. I would move the Rams up. I think these teams being close to each other are fine. I think I just would rearrange the 2. I would personally, going into it, because how I felt about the Chargers, I would have the Chargers probably in your next tier, depending on what it is. It all depends. I think the Chargers would be up. And then the could be contenders, I would have Cincy. I think I would honestly move Minnesota up to this and move Dallas down. So I'd flop those 2, and then I'd move the Rams up to could be contenders for where it lies right now. And I think because that one would hinder on health. And then I'd have Houston down to high risk, high reward, because I think their defense is so rewarding, but their offense itself is just high risk. Joe Mixon, is he going to play? How is he going to be injury-wise? Can they stay healthy? Can they protect the quarterback? So I think I would swap a little bit of it, but I don't have a problem with like anything that's here.
Sure. Let me say this. To what Tim said, I'm not a big fan of at least half the teams, if not more, of these 4 teams, right? Like, the Texans, why I have them and could be contenders is exactly this. They could easily win their division. I say easily, but, to me, it's a 2, maybe 2.5 team division, right?
We thought the same thing last year. They won their division and won a playoff game, and they were one of the final 4 teams again after doing the same thing. So, like, if you're a final 4 team, you can be a contender. So
that's exactly why I have them here. I don't necessarily like the team. I don't necessarily like the roster, but if you have that quarterback and that defense, you always got a chance. They're not a bona fide, 11, 12 win team, but they are a team that if they get into the playoffs, they can kind of put the fear of God in you.
And back-to-back years with a playoff win, that defense is going to be live. I mean, in CJ, we feel comfortable with him making decisions late in games. So
Sure. And the Cowboys, really, I have them here because this is where I would have had them anytime Dak Prescott's healthy. If you believe in him, fine. If not, whatever. I'm not a Dak Prescott guy, but you can't deny that anytime he's been healthy, they're a 10+ win team. By that definition, you are a could-be contender. Whether you believe in them or not, that's up to you or Cowboy fans. But, I mean, for instance, I love the Bears. All 4 of the rosters of the Bears, Rams, Steelers, and Vikings, I love them much more than the Texans and Cowboys. But by default, I feel like I got to put the Texans and Cowboys here. Just by the Cowboys being able to compete in that division. And we'll see. We'll see as the year goes on. Maybe they're a 7-win team. But this does feel like a team. I mean, we saw it. Even without Jalen Carter, we saw them compete with the Eagles. They had a real chance in that game. I think the Cowboys-Commanders games this year will be something to watch. So I think, they're not going to be in that division lead for the Eagles. I think the Eagles will have that division wrapped up. But they should be competing with the Commanders, who were in the NFC Championship game last year, for at least second in that division. So that's why I have them tiered there. Chargers, I think you guys kind of heard how I feel about the Chargers when we discussed them. I'm with you, Tim. I really liked the Chargers last year. I liked their roster. That was a team I'm big on. I love Jim Harbaugh. It felt like they kind of took a slip in the offseason, and it's a very competitive division. And if I had to choose between them or the Broncos, obviously I had the Broncos winning the division. So that's more of a proxy of that. And it was a could be because it's based on Justin Herbert taking a step up. And then the Bengals, we've said it ad nauseum, all depends on their defense. So that's why the Bengals are here.
The Bengals are the definition. Like the way the Chicago's high risk, high reward definition, the Bengals are the definition of could be contenders. Super Bowl offense, bottom tier defense.
JV defense.
Literally puts you in the could be because every game could look like what Bills Ravens looked like 41-40. And you feel comfortable with the Bengals winning half of those games. But when the other quarterbacks in your conference are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, when you have all of those quarterbacks in your conference, it's difficult. And also if you're getting up that high, we saw Aaron Rodgers darting some throws around there, put 34 up on the Jets. So, you've got people in your division who can do that, but I think that they're the definition. I would probably switch to the Broncos with the Chargers, where we have the Broncos, which is probably the next tier, I think, but I would have to see where the Broncos are and what they're in.
And again, this is for the listeners, for everyone here. It's a tier list, not a power ranking, right? Because power rankings probably would be a little different. Some of these teams would be closer to the bottom. So again, you could almost group from high risk, high reward up to the next tier. You could almost have these guys all in the same tier for being literal, but they're just tiered differently. Last thing I want to say, from what we saw on Friday from Justin Herbert, they damn well deserve to be, just off one game, looked like they deserve to be in the contending group, right? They beat a contending team, looked like the better team most of that game. So again, we'll see in 6 weeks. But now to this next tier. It's just two teams. Sure.
Hold on.
Oh, sure.
Timmy had something.
I got 2 things.
Yeah.
The Chargers, I would put in whatever tier you have the Broncos and the Bucks in. I'm assuming they're either in 1 tier or in 2 tiers. That's where I feel about them.
Sure.
And then 2, I think you could have gotten away putting the Cowboys lower into the tier prior to this, just because it's Schottenheimer's first year.
You know what?
And that's a big deal.
They are a 10-win team,
100% when everybody's healthy. but it is his first year. We really don't know what it's going to look like in 2
now with
weeks,
no
3
Micah
weeks.
too, that could like kind of high risk, high reward kind of thing.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I'm even okay with
fun with whatever Baz direction.
I'm even okay with even taking what I could do. I could even eliminate that tier altogether and put all three of the Bengals, Texans, and Cowboys in high risk, high reward and group everyone there together. And then Chargers don't really fit into this next tier, and you'll hear it in a second, but it does feel like the Chargers are a little more complete than all three of those teams. So that's fair. And the Cowboys, if we're just speaking strictly to the Cowboys, I think I will move the Cowboys down to high risk, high reward.
You know,
and
again,
again,
I like how this is a true thought exercise for you sometimes. You're like, you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I love it. I think it's good because, I mean, it brings up that good direct like debate. Because, like, honestly, you could make me an argument other than new era, and even technically you could with the new coach. You could almost make an argument for every tier the Cowboys could be in. Fun, worth our time, has direction where you're like, okay, you have Dak, you have CD. I know they traded Micah, but the direction is we're going to try to build for the future. But that would also lead to them technically being in a new era. And then you're like, well, what arrow is the way they're pointing? Are they going up? They were like, did they make a terrible decision to enter Micah? Are they going down? Like, the Cowboys are interesting with all the names of your tiers. You could put them in any single one of them, have an argument for it, and you'd be like, well, it makes sense. Whether you have them there or not, but like by the definition of what they're named, they all make sense in every single one so far.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. There's teams that, and I really did it kind of in mind with how we did it last year, where we could have arrows pointing up and down. Because, like, the Chargers are textbook for this. Chargers could be up or down. Cowboys could be up or down. Bengals could be up or down. But it's kind of like, all right, to make this tier work, who am I choosing? Who am I not choosing? So if I had to pick one, though, the Cowboys do kind of look out of place in this group. And I would probably move them down to high risk, high reward, especially with Schottenheimer. That is a huge risk. That nobody liked that higher as far as Cowboys fans. And after week one, it actually looked decent. Like, they actually did look well coached, right? That's 1 week, though. Who knows? So I'm actually okay with that. I would move the Cowboys down, and then maybe we can talk it out about that whole mid-tier right there that I have. That's really a talented high tier. If anything, to me, the mid-tier is the whole Cardinals, Falcons, Jaguars, and then down to the what direction are we doing? Any more comments? Should we go to the next one?